Helen Jones.
BBC Radio Merseyside.
Now, 24 minutes to 5, this next item I want to share with you. For the third month running, inflation has gone down, but no need to get excited. It isn't by much. In the year up to August, prices rose by 6.7%, down from 6.8%. Most experts had expected inflation to increase due to the rise in cost of petrol and diesel last month, driven by higher oil prices. With the Bank of England about to make an announcement on interest rates tomorrow, what is going on with our economy? Well, to steer us through the latest developments, I'm joined by Dr. Steve Nolan, who is a lecturer in economics at Liverpool John Moores University. Dr. Nolan, first of all, thank you for being with us.
No problem, Helen.
Thank you for your time. Let's start then with the basics. A drop in the inflation rate doesn't mean prices are going down, does it?
No, not at all. So the inflation rate is basically a measure of how much prices have gone up by from this time last year. So it's basically a basket, a kind of a representative basket of goods that we all buy in this country. We measure how much they cost now, compare them to how much they cost last year, and that's your inflation rate. And as you say, it's at 6.7%, which is high. I mean, it feels low now because it was up as high as 11%, but 6.7% is really high for what we're used to in terms of kind of how much prices have increased in like compared to the last 30 years.
And is it fair to say then that most experts weren't expecting inflation to go down? So explain then what's happened.
Yeah, so it was quite a surprise this morning because what we were expecting was almost a little bit of a blip in the trend downwards in the rate of inflation. It's been, as you said, it's been coming down quite a bit. We were expecting it to go up a little bit. The market was expecting about 7.1, 7.2%. And the reason they were expecting that was because of those fuel costs you were talking about in the introduction. The price of oil has gone up, and we're kind of all aware of that. We see that as we drive down the street or walk down the street. It's that price on the forecourt. But that did go up, but it was kind of compensated by maybe some unexpected falls, especially in food. So eggs, cheese, vegetables, and fish. They kind of, those prices all fell over that, and so that compensated a bit for the rise in fuel, so that we saw the small fall of from 6.8 to 6.7%.
And are prices likely to continue falling?
Yes, that is the expectation, but you're asking an economist, and we do tend to get this question wrong a fair bit. But we would be expecting the next few months some of those big price rises again from the energy price cap of last year, when we were still in the height of the initial months of the war in Ukraine. That's going to fall out of how we calculate things. So we should expect to see it fall a bit, but it's still going to be high by historical standards. It's going to be around about 5% by the end of the year, which is the target that the Prime Minister's set himself. But 5% inflation is still painful for people's pockets.
And Dr. Nolan, I wanted to run this by as well. What's slightly strange here is that a bar and cafe owner told the BBC that despite rising prices, he hadn't seen any change in customer behaviour. Are we becoming, do you think, less price sensitive, or does it depend on where and how we spend our money?
Well, there's I think, a few things going on there. One will be some people will have what we as economists call kind of buffers that they built up. We were locked up in our houses for a long period of time. And so we've had an element of saving going into this period of inflation where we could kind of absorb these price effects. But also, you have to bear in mind, it's kind of a blunt figure, inflation. It's one figure trying to represent the experience of everyone within the UK. So it's an average. It's not representing everybody's experience. So some people probably are less price sensitive, but others will be hit really quite sharply for this. So these people that probably aren't turning up at the bar and cafe. They can't even consider doing that kind of purchasing at the moment.
And of course, we shouldn't forget the Bank of England's interest rate announcement tomorrow then. What's your best guess? Up, down, or staying as we are?
Down is not going to happen. I'll bet my share on that one. Of the other two, I'm not sure. At before the inflation rate figure came out this morning, the markets were betting it would be 80%, that it would go up by 0.25%. But now it's about 50-50. It's a coin toss. They there are There's pressure on the bank to kind of signal that they're coming to the end of this rate rising thing, and there's a risk that they could over kind of overcorrect to try and damp down inflation. So these figures coming out today, where it's less than expected, actually gives some argument that they may not do. But I think they probably will still rise it, but I've been wrong before.
And every rise in interest rates affects homeowners, of course, as we know, Dr. Nolan. How do increases in mortgage payments then affect the wider economy?
Well, fundamentally, they take a disposable income out of people's pockets, the kind of money that's left over after we've paid for all the essentials, and that includes our housing. People have less to spend. If they have less to spend in the economy, that's less economic activity, and that can just feed through and cycle round and round. Less economic activity can lead to like people having to lose jobs, higher unemployment. Now, in many ways, that's kind of what rising interest rates are hoping to do. They're trying to take demand out of the economy, so there's not so much pressure on prices. But it's always hard to do that because it's impacting people's real lives.
And finally, Dr. Nolan, more generally, I don't want to get your crystal ball out as we get an assessment from you as we head to winter months very soon. What's your predictions then, how the economy stands now and in the next few months?
Well, at the moment, things are looking not particularly great. We saw unemployment figures rising last month. Growth fell month on month, but those figures are they bounce around a lot. You want to look more generally at the kind of quarterly figures, and there we're just seeing flatlining growth. There's no kind of sense that the economy's picking up in any kind of way. So I don't think if we do go into negative growth, it won't be too big. If we stay in positive growth, it won't be too big. I think just this story of essentially a horrible word, but true, stagnation is what we're looking at for the next few months.
Dr. Nolan, I'm going to leave it there, but many thanks for your analysis there of all things to do with interest rates up and down and inflation. You are the lecturer at economics at Liverpool John Moores University. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Alan.